This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a volunteer-based community access station. For more information, go to www.radiokidnappers.org.nz. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this program available through funding the Access Internet Radio Project.
Hi, this is Beverly Schoaf, and I am back with Living with Purpose. I'm so glad that you've joined us for today. I've been away for quite a while, and I'm really excited about my first time back. And I'm also excited about the guests that I have here with me in the studio. I have Jeff Dawsey from Palm Coast, Florida with us. Welcome, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well.
It's great to have you here.
Yes.
Now, Jeff, I met you about half a year ago,
yes,
and it was in Palm Coast, Florida. We had been to see the movie War Room. And right after that, we went to a restaurant, and I got to know you for the very first time. One thing that really stands out in my mind about you was that you are a passionate person.
Yes.
But not only are you passionate, you're passionate about a person in particular. Who is that one person in particular that you are most passionate about?
That would probably be Jesus.
And why is it that you're so passionate about him?
Well, because he's revealed himself to me in a way that I can't deny him. I couldn't deny him anymore.
All right. Now, have you always felt this way about him?
No, I've actually hated him with that same passion.
All right. Okay. So,
yeah.
How about you just kind of tell me a bit about what your life was like before him and what caused you to turn to Jesus Christ? What caused your attitude toward him to change from hate?
Okay. So, as you already know, I was born. Well, my dad left my mother when she already had 3 kids and me on the way, and my dad left her. And I didn't meet my dad until later on. I was about, 22, 23 years old.
Wow.
We'll get to that. He was abusive, and he was everything that a man shouldn't be to a woman or to his kids. But he left my mom before I was born. And around age 4, we packed up and we left from Alabama to Florida. And I guess about 2 years later after that, I met a friend in kindergarten or first grade, and we began to stay the night with each other. And his older brother, a guy much, much bigger than we were, he began to molest me for a few years. And so he would tell me that, that was normal and that I should be doing it with other people like that. And I began to, commit homosexual things with other kids around the neighborhood. And so all that went up to about 8 or 9. And as you grow older, you begin to learn the shame and, that it's not normal and things like that. And so I just began to really kind of hate myself. And I really began to hate my dad.
That's
because
what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I feel like if he would have been there, that stuff would have never happened. And so I first hated him with a passion. Because
you felt like here's your father. He's supposed to be your protector.
Absolutely.
And where was he?
Yeah, nowhere to be found.
That's right.
And so I was very short-tempered. I was pretty much a firebug, and
because of the anger, anger and hurt combined.
Yeah, anger and hurt, and psychologically, sexually, I never had a shot. I got involved with pornography and all things sexual when I was around 6 years old.
Wow.
And so that never left me until I met Jesus. But we'll get to that point. Okay. And so my family, we weren't really religious per se. I mean, we would listen to Christian music on Sundays, and I guess we would go to Sunday school, not, for lessons or anything, but for candy and, stuff like that. But we never really had to go to church at all. But I guess when I was about 11 years old, a friend of mine who lived, a bad life that I was living, he had met my cousin and me on the side of the highway one day, and he began to talk about Jesus and his death on the cross and all those different things, and it convicted me,
But that was hard for you to hear him talk about Jesus. I mean, because I'm sure you were thinking, okay, where was Jesus when this was happening? And you didn't know exactly what to think about him, I'm sure.
You know what? When he talked about it that day, I wasn't thinking about it like that.
Okay.
I didn't really start thinking about it, in terms of that way until the money was stolen, which, I'll get to.
Right.
But, so he taught me how, if you just confess and believe, and make Jesus Lord, then you'll get this eternal life and you'll get this relationship with Jesus. And so we both me and my cousin, we got down on our knees and on the highway, very afraid, but at the same time, we did that, and he told me to go home and read the Bible and get to know Jesus a lot more. And so I went home, and the worst thing that could have ever happened to a 12-year-old, not illiterate, but definitely not, reading comprehensive, the top level, the worst thing that could have happened to a 12-year-old at that point was giving him a King James Version Bible. And so,
yes.
He told me to go to the New Testament and read it from there. And I opened it up, and Adam begat that person, and this person begat that person. And so,
what does begat somebody mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, now I know that it means that he gave birth to someone, and then this person gave birth to someone. But I didn't know that at 12 years old. And so I kind of threw the Bible, across the room, and I was like, I'm done with that, but I'll continue to try to live a good life, And that really didn't amount to it. I think I stopped cussing, but I still smoked weed. I started smoking weed when I was like 10 or 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your childhood was just taken from you.
Yeah, because I started smoking cigarettes when I was like 8, and so I was a huge thief. I think we used to go to school. We used to go to the store and like have stealing competitions, like who can steal the most things, and stuff like that. So
your dad, was he aware of the path that you had taken prior to this? Was he?
I think we had spoken to him when I was about 5 years old one time, and it was a very short conversation. After that, I didn't hear from him until I was about 16.
So he really knew nothing.
Yeah, he didn't know anything. And by the time I was 16, like I think he actually visited my family, and my brother saw him, and I think they got their relationship right. But every time he would come to my house, I would leave because I hated him with a passion. Like I used to want him to die so I could go to his funeral, that I could celebrate and show my family just how much I hated him.
Right, because of the anger and hatred.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, did your mom talk to you about your dad? Did she have any conversations with you about your dad, or he just wasn't even talked about?
Yeah, not really, because he wasn't anywhere to be found.
Right.
And so the only time I guess we talked about him was there was a very short stint where he began to pay child support. But other than that, there was nothing really to be said. And even when she did say things, there wasn't anything bad, because the very fact that you're not here says that you're bad enough.
And that's right. It speaks for itself, the absence. Yeah. So how many siblings do you have?
Well, I have 2 older sisters, then my brother, who's here with me now in New Zealand. After us, he went and got married again, and I don't know if the person he got married to, the last woman he was married to, I know they didn't have any kids, but the woman before his last marriage, before he eventually passed in 2013, he had another 4 kids. Wow. So I guess I have a total of, it's a total of 8 of us.
Right. So the other 4 children, was he involved in their lives, or was he absentee as well?
I think he was involved, but he was such a bad influence.
That it was probably better if he hadn't.
Yeah,
been.
because, my youngest brother, I think, is currently in prison. My other brother, he's been in and out of prison. And my sisters, they've had their share of ups and downs, but just like my sisters, So I feel like if I would have lived under him, I would probably, I would have been in jail, as we're going to hear sooner or later. Yes. But I feel like either way it goes, I would have without Jesus, I would have been a train wreck.
So your mom must be a really strong lady.
Yes. I used to I think I actually wrote a poem about her in middle school and high school, calling her my shiro, because, raising 4 kids with almost little to no help. We would have stepfathers, but they were all bad influence, most of them alcoholics, and they were never really there for the kids. And so, yeah, she definitely tried her best, and whenever she could work, whenever we became of age, she definitely worked housekeeping and everything, and she always took in other people's kids with us. And so she's where I get my, before Jesus, I still had a great deal of manners and respects, and it's where if you were to meet her, she would instantly become the nicest person you've ever met. And that's no lie. That's no exaggeration, because she's my mom, you know. Like, there are a lot of bad things I could probably say about her, but she is one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
That's great. And she's still living?
And she's still living. Okay. If you go to my Facebook, you'd probably see on my page where she said, "I'm proud of you."
That's great.
Yeah.
I hope I can meet her one day.
You probably will.
That would be a pleasure.
Will. Yeah, but so we were at right after I came to know Jesus. So months go by, you know, and like I said, the only thing that's changed in my life is the cussing. And I end up, one of my friends, he steals $40 from me. Now, we're growing up in the ghetto, we're poor, and $40 was a lot of money at the time for me. It still is, you know.
Yes.
But this guy stole it, and I was so mad. And a week later, my cousin stole some money from me. And I remember just telling God that day, you know, I think it's probably the first time I had prayed to him, you know, in so long, other than now I lay me down to sleep. Right. My grandmother told me. But I was like, you know, God, when I wasn't trying to follow you, you know, nothing bad was happening to me. And that was a lie, according to my childhood, you know, and so many other things. But I was like, now that I'm following you, all these bad things are happening. And so I was like, I'm never going to follow you again. And I just began to call him every cuss word that I knew. And I knew all of them, you know. And so I called him every cuss word times 3.
All right. Well, we're going to stop right there. Mm-hmm. And I want us to hear a song right now. And you have chosen this song, mm-hmm. Jeff. I want you to tell our listeners why this song is so special to you, and just tell them what this song is about. All right.
So the song is called Oceans from Hillsong. And it's the parentheses is where my feet may fail. And it's pretty much about God taking you out of your comfort zone. Pretty much the story of Peter, where Jesus was out on the water and Peter gets out of the boat. And, you know, the reason why it's so special to me is because for the last year and a half, probably, I've tried my best to live outside of comfort zones as much as possible. And I feel like that's the way you can see God. That's the way you can show God. There's so many Christians in this world who aren't effective at all to non-believers because God's not in a comfort zone, and that's where they dwell. Mm-hmm. I want to live in such a way where people can say, if God is not real, then there's no way that Jeff can do this apart from a God being real. Right. And so that's a part of the reason why I'm in New Zealand right now, because I never knew that I would ever come to New Zealand in my life. And when you guys said that you needed me here, I just began to pray, and God began to show up in ways unimaginable.
And here you are.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's listen to this song, Oceans.
Yes.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. You are mine.
right, Jeff, you said that you ended up hating God. I don't believe you stayed at that point. Can you tell us some more of your story?
Yes, and so first it was a dislike. I started out disliking God, and then it went to hating God, and then it just became to absolute God doesn't exist, atheism. 12 years old, that shocked a lot of people that I was living around, because I don't think I had ever met any atheists. Everyone believed in God, but everyone lived the same life that I lived, especially my friends. We all smoked weed or marijuana. We all drank, they drank more. I just didn't like the taste of it. So I drank a lot less than they did. We all were, sexually active and all these different things. And so, but I lived it, and I was an outspoken atheist. I talked about a great deal about all the reasons why there couldn't be a God and things like that. And that went on from, age 12 to about 18. And I guess around about 17, I started selling drugs, because I was not okay with, buying marijuana, the little bit of weed for like $20. I just couldn't do that.
You wanted to get paid for it instead of having to pay for it.
Yes, and I wanted to smoke it for free,
right.
And so that was a great career for me. And I actually believed that. And so that led to me eventually dropping out of high school, because I felt like, I was making good enough money. I didn't really need an education, and I dropped out of school. And but when I dropped out of school, I ran into a movie that was in my house. I still don't know who bought the movie, how it got there. Oh, you bought it? Oh, my brother bought the movie. I never knew that. But the movie was called The Hurricane. The Hurricane's about a boxer named Reuben Hurricane Carter during the Civil Rights era. Reuben was the middleweight champion, and I don't know if he had lost the belt at this point or if he was I know he had won the belt. But anyways, there was a night when I guess 2 black guys had killed about 3 or 4 white people, and they blamed it, one of the crooked sergeants, blamed it on Reuben because of a past issue. And so Reuben and this guy, I think his name was John Artis, they received 3 life sentences. And so Reuben, I think after about the 6th year, he published his book, The 16th Round. And, some years later, this kid, in New York named Lesra, he gets taken in by 3 Canadians, and he moves to Canada so that they can help him, so that they can educate him. But he was illiterate, and they wanted to give him the opportunity to go to college. And they take him to a book depot when he gets to Canada. And of the hundreds and hundreds of books at this book depot, he chose, the 16th Round, and it was in this huge box of books, and it was at the top. So if this book would have been at the bottom on the side, or even if he would have just, if he would have saw something else, then he would have never seen it. And long story short, he takes it home, he reads it, he's convinced that Reuben is innocent, so he becomes his pen pal while he's in prison. And about 13 years later, he and the Canadians and other people, of course, they set Reuben free. And so I watched this movie for about 2 months after dropping out of school straight. I watched it every single day for about 2 months. And the last day, for some reason, it just baffles me. I'm just thinking about how, Lesra had to go to Canada, and he had to be illiterate and it had to be a book. And, he got to this book, and, all these things went into play so that he could eventually read this book, meet Reuben, and all these things get into play, and he eventually saves his life. And everyone else's life has changed because of that. And so, baffled, I'm looking for a cigarette lighter in my house to smoke some more weed, and I go to my kitchen drawer, and first thing I see is a pocket Gideon Bible, a small pocket Bible. And the thought comes into my head, I wonder how many lives you would save if you read this book. This was my first encounter of God since I was 12, Wow. And so after reading that, or after watching that movie and seeing how that book had, changed everyone's life, I guess that was my only and greatest motivation. And so I go to my room, I get some weed, and I skip Matthew chapter 1, and I begin to read. And for 3 hours later, I read the entire book of Matthew The next day I read Mark, and the next day Luke. And as I'm reading this, I'm smoking and people are buying weed from me, you know. But sooner than later, you know, weeks go by and I just really began to get convicted. And I stopped, you know, I stopped selling drugs. I stopped doing everything that I was doing, and I become addicted to the Bible. I mean, at least 5 hours a day. You know, I'm reading the Bible. I'm watching the preachers on TV. You know, I'm totally consumed by the Bible. And that lasts for about 11 months. And by that 11 months, though, I had finished the entire Bible.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you finished the Bible. We finished our show for the day.
Yeah.
But you know what? We cannot leave our audience without hearing the rest of your story. So
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, if you can, would you just be with us again next week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. You have been listening to Jeff Dawsey. He will be with us again next week, and I want to invite you to turn in again to Living with Purpose and also find out how you can live with purpose. Thank you for listening today.